Many know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a native Black American and a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, go to nativeblackancestry.com to schedule a consultation.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them, and this shit get way deeper than your pigment.
All right. We are live on TikTok and YouTube. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe if you're tuning in on YouTube. If you're watching on TikTok, give me a follow. Let's get the likes up, guys. Thank you for joining me this evening. We've got some heavy-handed receipts that we're going to get into, as always. Big announcement. We also are now, once again, monetized on YouTube. So the super chat option is available, the membership option, as well as... what else you got? Super stickers, I suppose. Whereas the folks on the folks on TikTok, you guys already know how you can show your support. Let me see who we got over in the chat on YouTube. We are still here. Says, hey, nice to see you. Thank you for tuning in. We're just waiting for the folks on TikTok to get the likes to 5,000, and then we will officially begin tonight's presentation. I see quite a few familiar faces over on TikTok. Let's gather around. Make sure to share the broadcast, whether you're on YouTube or TikTok. You know I'm shadow banned. You know they're always trying to censor your boy. So make sure to share the broadcast with a few of your friends. It definitely goes a long way. And check out the website, nativeblackancestry.com, if you need access to historical documentation citing our indigeneity, or if you even want more personalized guidance with genealogy to discover your ancestral roots or apply for tribal citizenship, then make sure to check out nativeblackancestry.com. You even have access to my calendar where you can book a day and time that works best to connect with me one-on-one. And you know what? Hold on. That segue was smooth for TikTok, but it was not smooth at all for YouTube. Let me go ahead and bring that up. Here we go. Come on, y'all. Real people, real results. What are you waiting for? Go to nativeblackancestry.com if you've yet to put together the missing pieces and, really take these things that seem like aloof rumors, like, oh, so-and-so was indigenous, or, oh, yeah, don't you know my great-great-grandmother was an Indian? Well, guys, it's one thing to hear these oral traditions passed down, and it's another thing to actually find the documentation. It's another thing to take that documentation and then secure tribal citizenship. I mean, guys, it's a very, very powerful thing. But again, if you need one-on-one guidance, make sure to check out nativeblackancestry.com. And it looks like we got Luna tuned in on TikTok. Nice to see you, Luna. It has been a while. Always nice to see a familiar face. Guys, we are almost to 5,000 likes on TikTok. Once we hit 5K likes on TikTok, we will officially begin tonight's presentation. I've got some receipts on how we don't descend from West African slaves, but Instead, indigenous communities that were enslaved in place. I mean, guys, think about it. I mean, how do you bring an African over here and all of a sudden they're an expert cultivator of indigenous American crops such as tobacco and indigo and corn and cotton? I mean, the math just ain't mathing, if you ask me. How you take a foreigner from the other side of the world, have them come over here, and you need them so heavily for their agricultural skills, guys. I don't know Africans to be like these crazy smart agriculturalists. I mean, I can't really. Maybe it's because I'm an ignorant American, but when I think Africa, I don't think farms. I don't think rich farmland. I don't think the world's pantry, such as the Americas are, right? You know, we're responsible for like 2/3 of the world's food supply or something like that. Do you know those Irish folks would not exist if it wasn't for our indigenous crop, the potato, making its way over there? I mean, come on. We know so many Asian communities by their spiciness. You know, the pad thai, the tom yum, the tom kha. But a lot of these spices are actually indigenous to the Americas, not Asia. So, damn, I think a thank you is long overdue. And guys, don't get it twisted. They often try to conflate this thing, though. Mainstream academics will try to refer to this as the Columbian exchange. Be careful of the wordplay, guys. Be careful of the wordplay. The Columbian exchange, they say. Can I get some fists or feathers in the chat if any of you guys have heard that phrase floated around, the Columbian exchange? I mean, it may seem like an innocent enough phrase, but guys, it has devilish intent. The Columbian exchange. Trying to make it seem as if, you know, there was some kind of exchange, like you take something from me and I take something from you. And you know, in our community, we have the saying, right? Fair exchange is no robbery, right, guys? But when it comes to these pale-faced pilgrim and conquistadors coming to our ancestral homeland, oh, it was all robbery. It was all robbery and massacre. And oh Lord, we're live streaming on TikTok right now, so I have to watch the words that I use, but you catch my drift. But when they talk about this Columbian exchange, what they're trying to allege is that, you know, the Europeans actually brought something, a benefit to the Americas. And in exchange, they took something, a benefit from the Americas, you know, an exchange. Come on, y'all. Come on. This is how they claim the exchanges. They claim that they got from the Americas, you know, things like maize, you know, corn, cacao, later turned into chocolate, tobacco, rich land that they were able to mechanize right before the Industrial Revolution, right? But what do they claim that they like gave us in exchange, right? Check this out, guys. I'm sure you've heard this before. They claim that the Spanish introduced pigs, cows, and horses. Yeah. Hey, we took everything from your grandma. We kicked you guys out of your house, took it over, forced you to work your land for free 99 as our slaves, reclassified you, did everything that we could to destabilize your community. But you know what? You guys got horses and pigs and cows. All right. Limitlessly on TikTok says, and germs. That's right. Come on. And actually, even though we're not at 5,000 likes on TikTok yet, again, I said once we hit 5,000 likes on TikTok, we'll officially begin tonight's presentation. But even though we're not at 5,000 likes on TikTok yet, I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit and give you a little receipt here. Just a little receipt. Because I'm sure that you guys have heard the claim time and time again of the Spaniards bringing horses. Guys, that's false. That's false. And sometimes we need a a brother in arms of another complexion to break it down. Sometimes members in our community, hey, y'all will not believe it unless it comes from a white tea person. Okay, so I know an indigenous scholar, and his information's on the up and up. Actually, he's on TikTok and YouTube. But for the folks tuning in on TikTok, you may be familiar with him. His TikTok and YouTube page is called Handsome History. If any of you guys want to check him out, Handsome History. He actually did a great video, I think just today or yesterday or something, about how they ain't bring no horses over here. Hey, we never really stopped to think about that, huh? The Spanish documented a lot. Most of the Europeans did. And they make the claim that they brought horses over here, that there was no such thing as horses until some Spaniards brought it over, but never any records of breeding farms, never really any records of sustained importation of what do they call the horses that breed with the other studs or mares? I don't know the whole horse lingo, but you know what I'm saying, guys. In actuality, for you to create a new type of horse species or whatever they call it, I believe they say it takes up to 100 years. So why don't we have any steady documentation of the Spanish importing horses over here and having these breeding farms? But hey, while they teach you that Christopher Columbus was a hero that discovered our ancestral homeland, they'll also slide in this Columbian exchange where we brought some horses and some cows and some pigs and took everything from you in return, especially gold. So trillions of dollars in gold. Damn. So not only do the Spanish conquistadors not have any written accounts of breeding farms or breeding programs for the horses that they allegedly introduced to the Americas, but they actually have detailed accounts of wild horses already here. All right. Guys, you have to understand they'll do every petty little thing to make it seem like our ancestors were just these like woodland savages. No, they built pyramids and cities that were larger than London. They built vast culture and civilization spanning from the Great Lakes down to the Caribbean and Central and South America. But guys are going to make it seem like we was roaming with some buffalo living in teepees. No, you got us confused with those Mongolian migrants. Come on, not in a single generation. Oh, and it looks like we have some folks in the comment section that have some questions for your boy Mike. Guys, don't be shy. Go ahead and click the request to join button, and you guys can chop it up with me. Ask me any questions you'd like. I know it's hard when you guys want to refute the claim of Black Indigenous people being in the Americas, and then whoa, you're actually faced with one live and direct. What do you do? What do you do? And for those of you that aren't familiar with me, as a full-time historian, genealogist, digital archivist, and card-carrying member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I do what I can to educate my people. So if any of you guys have questions about genealogy, tribal citizenship, or anything in between, let me know. During a lot of the consultations that I've been doing lately with clients, we've actually been breaking down this whole Creek-Friedman court case. I know some of you guys have seen it in the news, but not really known what it was about or what's exactly going on. So many things like that I'm able to break down with ease and kind of demystify, if you will. Come on, y'all. Let's break it down. Let's break it all the way down. And in TikTok, Kia, why are you being so shy? Kia, Kaya, whatever your name is. I mean, I sent you a little request to join backstage. Why don't you accept it? Let's chop it up. Kia wants us to know how he's not indigenous. He or she. I mean, I'm not gonna gender you based off of an avatar and a gamer tag, right? But go ahead and chop it up with us. Let us know why you're not indigenous and why you think we care about you not being indigenous, and what country in Africa your people come from. Or you can just stay in the chat, I guess. Oh, and you know what? The folks on YouTube says they can't hear the video. Dun dun dun. Yeah, you guys definitely should be able to hear it. Let me go ahead and try to redo my screen share for the folks on YouTube. I know the folks on TikTok have been able to hear it, but let's see what's going on with YouTube. And for the folks watching on YouTube, have you been able to hear it at all? Or at a certain point, did the audio cut out? Let me know. Let me know. Matter of fact, when I play this from the top, can you hear it now?
The Spanish knew the horses were already here. We've all been told that horses went extinct in the Americas 10,000 years ago, and that the Spanish reintroduced them. But here's what's strange. The Spanish themselves never left us records of horse import programs, stud farms, or breeding plantations in Florida or Georgia. No logs, no manifest, nothing. Nada. What they did leave are quotes describing horses already present in America. For example, the Soto's chronicler in the 1540s wrote, "We found horses that had gone loose, and the Indians said they had seen them before in the woods." Rodrigo Rangel, Soto's secretary, described horses running loose in the country. They had become wild. Decades later, a de la Vega wrote in La Florida del Inca, "In those parts, there were horses wandering, not of our bringing, but as though the land had long since known them." Think about that. If the Spanish had imported them, we'd see shipping records or missionary accounts of their horse farms. We'd see references to massive investments in breeding stock, but there's none of that. The officers at St. Augustine had a few personal mounts, sure, but no serious breeding infrastructure. And without that, no chance of producing a swamp-adapted pony in a single generation. Because here's the reality of animal husbandry. Creating a new functional breed takes 15 generations, roughly 100 years of stability. You need pastures, controlled mating, culling, and careful trait selection, expertise. If the Marsh pony had really been created by the Spanish, we'd find remnants of that system. Diaries, mission reports, surviving breeds in the 1800s that trace back to Spanish plantations. But nothing exists. The infrastructure simply wasn't here. The indigenous lowland cultures, on the other hand, had centuries of stable, large-scale marsh agriculture. They'd had the time and knowledge to create exactly such an animal. And remember the so-called extinction? That claim rests on fossils from about 20 square kilometers of sites in the far north. less than 0.0005%.
Come on. So essentially, when mainstream academics try to say that there was no such thing as horses in the Americas and they went extinct a long, long time ago until some Spaniards brought them over, you got to realize that they've barely done any archaeological evidence on that. Come on. 0.0005% of the continent of America has been searched for horse remains.
Of the Americas continents. In swamps and rainforests, bones dissolve in centuries. So of course we don't have fossils in Georgia or Florida. That absence is preservation bias, not proof of extinction. So when you put it all together, the story that horses vanished and had to be reintroduced by the Spanish collapses. The Spanish never documented bringing them. Their own writers admitted they saw them wild, and the biology of breeding shows it couldn't have been the Spanish. Let's face it, the marsh pony was indigenous science, and that's why the colonial trust had to erase it and claim it as its own invention.
Come on, y'all, let's talk about it. The word of the day is indigenous science. So many different examples, different case studies I'm going to prepare for you this evening that shows the indigenous science of our ancestors, from how whole forested areas were really like man-made gardens of sorts. I mean, how in Florida and certain swamplands and marshlands, they created whole islands of orange grove trees to sustain many villages. I mean, you got to understand, our ancestors lived in abundance. These folks came over here, parceled it, squared it, surveyed it, mortgaged it, deeded it, mechanized it, taxed it. Come on, this was all an indigenous science that our ancestors had perfected. And you know what? It looks like we got somebody trying to tune in on TikTok. Let's see who we got. Coming from the back to the front is Unbelievable Truth. Unbelievable Truth, let us know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind. Unbelievable Truth going once. Oh, guys, I think they got stage fright. I don't know. Hold on. Are you there, Unbelievable Truth? If you're there, we can't hear you. I'll give you a good 3 seconds to get it together. Oops, I don't know how to count. See you next time. Let me see what you guys are talking about. Jay says, American had woolly mammoth, but yet there's no elephant. Yep, I feel you. But yeah, guys, it looks like we have hit 5,000 likes on TikTok. Thank you guys for helping me reach my goal. We can go ahead and officially get this party started now. What we'll do is we'll bring up some thought-provoking questions, see if there's anybody out there on TikTok or YouTube that wants to join and answer them. And then we'll get into some receipts. For the folks on YouTube, I just dropped the StreamYard link in the chat. For the folks on TikTok, you know what to do. Go ahead and request to join as a guest. And as far as the questions that we have queued up this evening, they are as follows. Why are so many people upset that Black Americans are acknowledging their indigenous American roots, but they had no issue when Black folks claimed to be Moors, Hebrews, Nubians, etc., etc.? Did you know the Americas have more pyramids than Africa? If most Black Americans are said to descend from African slaves, why do U.S. Census records from the 1700s and 1800s list so many free people of color, but so few actual Africans? And last but not least, who benefits more from us believing we're from Africa, us or the same people who stole our land? So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you want to answer these questions, go ahead and request to join as a guest on TikTok, or you can click the StreamYard link if you're watching on YouTube. I guess I'll go ahead and send some invites out to some people on TikTok as well. Make it easy for you. I swear, some of y'all don't be coming up unless you get a personal invite. It looks like we might already have somebody backstage on TikTok. Let me see. And if there's anybody that is unable to join but still wants to answer the questions, then you can go ahead and answer them in the comment section or the chat. Jay, nice to see you. We got Kishi in the building. Is it just you, or is it you and your sister? Where's Miss Johnson at? Free Spiritness, thank you for the heart. Appreciate it. Cree, thank you for the roses. Appreciate all the support. Let me see. As a matter of fact, speaking of Cree, I thought I saw Cree backstage. Am I tripping? Oh, yeah, we got Cree backstage. Cree, where you calling in from and what's on your mind?
Well, I live in the Dakotas now, but I am from Louisiana. So our history is very much so rich. And I didn't know how important it was to be indigenous in this country until I moved to the Dakotas. And then folks started asking me a lot of questions as far as like registration and all this, that, and the third. Then I brought up Walter Plecker and the One Drop. And they were befuddled, like I was making this stuff up. And me, I'm just thinking to myself, look, my grandma don't have to lie. My great grandparents didn't lie. Who's lying? And it wasn't until I heard Africans were certain countries in the western part of Africa were seeking reparations for slavery here. And I was like, hold up, wait a minute. Red flag. I need to do a little bit more research in what it means to be African American, because Africa is a continent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm supposed to originate from somewhere, I need to originate from a country, not just, a landmass, if I'm going to claim that title.
I feel you. Yep.
So I remember being questioned about my indigeneity. And I asked this question: who built the mounds? Who built the mounds? Who built them? They couldn't answer.
I see. So these were what, Plains Indians that you were coming in contact with in the Dakotas?
Yes.
Okay, I got you. So when you presented them with the new information that they weren't privy to, such as Walter Plecker and the one drop rule and stuff, were they receptive? Did they try to negate your indigenous claims, or? Nope, I might have lost her. Are you still there, Cree? No, Cree, if you're there, I cannot hear you. Say something again. And I'm getting no audio from you. I'm going to go ahead and drop you down and just try to reconnect. And we got another guest coming from the back to the front. On TikTok, we've got Jay. Jay, go ahead and let the people know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
Calling from New York City. One of the things I can't get is the ships. Now, I lived in Puerto Rico, and the Spanish that came to Puerto Rico, and the stories always came that they barely make it. Those ships used to get shipwrecked. So how can you bring thousands of people in these little, because those ships weren't as big as people make them out to be. They were actually small. So how do you bring thousands of people through the Atlantic on rough waves to the Americas? It doesn't make any sense. And when the Pilgrims came, they were barely alive when they made it. So how do you get all these people out over here? It just doesn't make no sense. History doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I feel you.
Even Hernan Cortez, when he landed in Mexico, he barely made it there. Mm-hmm. Their ships were wrecked. So it doesn't make any sense that all these people got enslaved and all of a sudden went through the Atlantic Ocean and they just made it here okay. Like they got the people here. Meanwhile, some of these ships were carrying weapons like cannonballs and rifles and all kinds of stuff. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I feel you. And I think to a lot of people it doesn't make much sense. And that's one of the things that I really bridge the gap on during certain kind of consultations I provide through my website. Some folks have the option to book a consultation that has like an extra history lesson. And that type of consultation, we actually go into not only the different indigenous tribes, the difference between the indigenous, melanated communities versus the Plains Indians, but we also go into the whole thing about the transatlantic slave trade because, for one, they totally overstate the amount of Africans that were brought over while minimizing the amount of European slaves that were brought over. Most people don't know that the first slaves in the British American colonies were Europeans, right? And then not only that, but there's so much confusion around the transatlantic slave trade because it's kind of like two opposite extremes. You've got people on one side that think that the transatlantic slave trade is a conspiracy and it never happened at all. Then you have people on the other side that think every single Black American descends from a West African slave that came here in the bottom of a ship, right? And the truth is actually much more nuanced than that. The transatlantic slave trade definitely did happen. Africans sold their fellow African to Europeans for trinkets, muskets, gunpowder, mirrors, beer, fabrics, the most frivolous of things. But this is where most people get confused. Now, first and foremost, you got to understand that the way that they play on our psyche is they make us think that, oh, there was like some kind of straight shot from West Africa straight over to the British 13 colonies or something. No, that's impossible. The distance is like 3 times the distance that you see represented on the map. This is not necessarily to scale. We've got rough seas, high tides, hurricanes, all kinds of stuff. Not only that, but the ships are not powered. So they're only powered by the wind in the sail and the ocean's natural currents or the ocean gyres. And you're going to have to resupply nonstop the longer you're out at sea. I mean, you can't keep enough portable water for you to survive going straight across the North Atlantic, right? So this is what actually happened. They went from Europe down to the west coast of Africa, where they traded, because it's called a slave trade. It's not called a holy war. It's not called a mass invasion. The white tea man did not bear crawl and sneak into Africa and chase down some Africans and throw a net on them and shit. I mean, come on now. What are we talking about? The Africans rounded up their fellow Africans they didn't like and sold them to foreigners for trinkets. And after they sold them, actually, let me pull up a different representation that actually has the ocean's gyres, because some of you guys aren't really familiar with the concept of the ocean's gyres. But here we go. So there's natural oceanic currents, right? And actually, this map doesn't do it justice. This one is the one that I like to use. So you can see through the ocean's gyres. Can I actually zoom in on this? You know what? I'll do you guys one better. Let me download the image so I can zoom in on it. Here we go. So if we look at the ocean's gyres, you see that first and foremost, you've got the South Equatorial Current. That's the first current that can really take you from West Africa, where they're purchasing slaves, to the Americas. That's why most of the African slaves went to Brazil. Most of them went to South America. This is a very close distance. This makes a lot more sense. This is not impossible. This makes sense logistically, right? You hug the coastline of West Africa, you take the South Equatorial Current right over to Brazil, which is why the largest destination of African slaves was Brazil. And we see rich African culture and heritage being practiced in Brazil to this day. They eating fufu and jollof rice and praying to African orishas and all that, right? But you got to understand that the longer that you're out at sea, the more likelihood that you have of your cargo perishing, and your fellow European sailors are going to be perishing from diseases, different ailments, right? So what makes more sense? Does it make more sense that they're going to just, pass up these plantations in South America, pass up these plantations in the Caribbean, and just hold out and wait to sell their slaves in the British colonies, the last destination before they head back home. Does that make more sense? Every day that they're out at sea, the slaves are perishing, the European sailors are at risk of perishing. Why would they pass up all these plantations to sell all the slaves in North America? Now, in actuality, what makes more sense is what actually happened, which is that they offloaded their cargo at the earliest plantations possible, which is why most of them went to Brazil, Portuguese colony. Second largest destination for the African slaves trafficked during the transatlantic slave trade was the Caribbean, right? Suriname, Guyana, whether it's French Guyana, British Guyana, et cetera, Puerto Rico, Haiti, DR, right? The last destination is North America. They say less than 4% of all Africans trafficked during the transatlantic slave trade, less than 4% went to North America. And that includes Canada and would later be the US of A. And when we actually quantify that, they say that that's between 90,000 and 300,000 slaves. And even if we play devil's advocate and say 300,000 or 400,000 African slaves came over here to what would later be the US of A, the math still ain't mathing. We've got over 45 million Black Americans present day. It is logistically impossible to take a sample population of 300,000 or 400,000 and have that balloon to over 45 million. I don't care whether it's been 300 years, 600 years, 1,000 years. That's logistically impossible. I've crunched the numbers. In order to grow to 45 million naturally, taking into account that plantation slaves had a high mortality rate and a low birth rate, then guess how much of a sample population you would have to start with? 3 to 4 million. They would have had to traffic 3 to 4 million Africans over here to make up this 45 million Black American demographic we see present day. So, Jay, hopefully that kind of demystified the transatlantic slave trade for you a little bit. And you're on mute, brother. If you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
The thing that also gets to me too is that in order to justify the transatlantic slave trade, they have to have this extermination thing going on with the natives. It is the same way in the Caribbean. They say, "Oh, the Taino Indians were exterminated, or the Indians over here were exterminated," and then we replace them with Africans. That's another thing.
Exactly. You're connecting the other dot. You're showing us the other side of the coin. Yeah. They say, oh, a couple Europeans sneezed and all the Indians disappeared, and we repopulated the Americas with these Africans. And yeah, exactly. It doesn't hold up. Even when you talk about these rather small colonies, or excuse me, not colonies, these rather small islands like Puerto Rico or Jamaica, they still weren't able to take out the indigenous communities. They fled to the mountains. They fled to the high terrain that the conquistadors couldn't go to, right? So,
they did. And the thing is,
some of them hopped in canoes and fled to mainland Florida, parts of the southeast, right?
Yeah, because and when you take DNA samples, people from other places have Taino blood too. They were like, "Oh man, I didn't know my ancestors came from here." So I think honestly, what really happened, was they were trafficking Indians from other places to other places. That's what I kind of think that was going on. While I'm trying to figure this whole thing out, they were taking Indians from one part and sending them to another part, and that's the slave trade. They were slave trading Indians. They were slave trading Africans.
Wait, hold on. So you haven't actually researched this. You're saying that this is just a hypothesis of yours.
It's just a hypothesis to me.
Okay, wait, hold on. And it's interesting that just by participating in an exercise of critical thought, this is the conclusion you reach. This is the hypothesis you draw, because that is backed by research. I've done the research. There were dozens and dozens of wars between Black indigenous communities in the Americas and different European factions. And when we lose a war, they ship us to a different part of the Americas. There was the Yamasee War. Matter of fact, I have a book right here. from the current chief of the Yamasi, Chief Seku.
Yeah.
In this book right
But
here.
I wanted to just say one more thing.
Yeah, go for it.
It's just like the Cherokee, right? The
Mhm.
Cherokee originally is from the South, right? So what they do with the Cherokee, they send them to Oklahoma.
Yep, Indian removal,
All
Trail
the,
of Tears. Yep.
yeah, all the Indians, if you notice them in every war they ever been to, they take them out of one place and then they ship them out somewhere else. And I've noticed that. I was like, if they were doing that in the United States and they were doing that in the Caribbean and all over, they were taking Indians from here, displacing them over here, taking these and make them work over here. And they were doing that all over. I don't think they just did it here in the United States. So that's why I started coming to my conclusion that the whole slave thing is a hoax. It happened, but it didn't happen. There is no way. You know, even with the ships today, we could do it now. You know, with the Carnival cruise line, we could ship people back and forth. But back in the day, we didn't have no ingenuity like that. So I kind of make thinking in my mind, just like they displaced these Cherokees and sent them to Oklahoma and took these Indians and sent them over here. That's exactly that was happening all over.
All right, so here's the passage that I was looking for that that affirms your hypothesis. So there was a Yamasi War in 1715. It says, quote, in the early 18th century, the English established the colony of South Carolina on the territory of the Yamasi tribe. The colonists treated the Indians terribly. They stole their land and captured many Yamasi and sent them to the West Indies, where they were sold as slaves. By 1715, the Yamasi had had enough. They attacked the English and tried to drive them from their lands. Other Indians, including many Creek, joined in the fight. The English coaxed the Cherokee, who had a tense relationship with the Creek, to battle for their side. In the end, the English won, and the surviving Yamasi were forced to scatter and find new homes with other tribes.
Yeah.
So, yep, you guys really got to look up all of these indigenous conflicts. And the way that they hide the history is they'll try to separate it, right? They'll document certain things as slave revolts, and then they'll document other things as Indian wars. Well, what's the difference between a slave revolt and an Indian war? Well, if the Indian's already been captured as a slave and he's fighting back, well, it's a slave revolt. If the Indian's still free, not captured yet, and he's fighting back, well, it's an Indian war. And if you look up the timeline of slave revolts and Indian wars, it was a whole lot going on that they don't teach you about in school. But go ahead and give us some closing remarks, Jay, and then I got to get back to Cree, and then we got another guest up here as well.
Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Don't hesitate to click that button in the future. And Cree, go ahead and unmute yourself. Nice to have you back. What were you telling us again about moving to the Dakotas?
Oh yeah, it was just a strange interaction, and me not knowing like what treaties are currently in place, and my children go to school, and there's extra funding for those who are indigenous to this land, right? But because we aren't registered with our tribe, they're not able to gain access to those extra money. So it's a lot of red tape for us to prove that indigeneity here.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. And real quick, Will Rod on TikTok says, what's the name of the book, Chief? This book is Yamasi, Indians, Culture, Heritage, and Practices. This is by Chief Seku. If you guys are on TikTok, just look up Chief Seku. He's active on TikTok. That's SEKU. And I think he has a link on his TikTok to buy the book. But yes, I totally understand where you're coming from. That's the whole reason why, you know, I abandoned my profession and became a full-time genealogist to kind of demystify this process for a lot of folks, because you're right, there's a lot of tangible benefits that are owed to our people by way of treaties like the Treaty of 1866, whether it's free healthcare, free dental, money for kids for school, free college tuition. I tell people all the time, during COVID, back in 2020, I got my $1,200 check from being a U.S. citizen from Trump, right? He gave everybody a couple $1,200 checks, right? Well, on top of that, I got a couple checks for $4,000 from my tribe for being a member of a federally recognized tribe. And this isn't to say, hey, we should be looking into tribal citizenship because we're going to get a bunch of money. No, but there is a reparations package owed to our ancestors to a degree that we just have waiting to be claimed. All you got to do is trace the dot and prove that you're a lineal descendant of a member of the tribe. And when you talk about a global catastrophe like COVID, hey, it damn sure helped a lot to have a couple extra payments of $4,000 through the whole world being shut down. Okay, but these kind of things are earmarked to indigenous tribes, and some tribes are only recognized by the state, some tribes are recognized by the federal government, some tribes have no recognition at all and are fighting for recognition. Some of us descend from folks who resisted Indian removal west of the Mississippi, so because of that our ancestors got reclassified as Negro, mulattoes, freedmen, free persons of color, et cetera, et cetera. So it definitely does get very complicated, but that's the whole reason why I make myself available throughout the week for those one-on-one consultations. But yeah, Cree, go ahead and unmute yourself and lay it on us. What was the most contentious situation or conversation that you had with one of those Dakota Plains Indians?
You know that moment when the air kind of shifts and you know that someone is on the defense?
Mm-hmm.
For me, to see the disdain and disgust of someone who is supposed to be running a nonprofit organization, not even willing to hear out a proposal. I'm not asking for anything but a collaboration.
So you
And
were trying to collaborate with one of the tribes in the Dakotas? Okay. And what kind of project were you trying to collaborate with them on?
a horticulture project, an agriculture project,
Okay.
something sustainable that focused on the
Shantae, thank you for the heart.
the natural wildlife in this particular area. So basically growing fruit trees that are indigenous to this area.
So how did they shoot you down?
Oh, the guy didn't even acknowledge when I walked in the door, first and foremost. It took about 10 minutes. I actually calculated how long it took him to go to his desk and then not give me eye contact.
So it's a lot of these soft racial undertones.
Oh, our information is on the wall. Oh, it's on the website.
Yeah, I feel it. See, and that's why a lot of people have confusion. They say to me, "Hey, Mike, I heard my ancestor was indigenous, but I don't know if I want to apply for tribal citizenship, Mike. I don't know if these folks are going to accept me or if they're going to ostracize me because I'm black and this and that." And I tell people all the time, I've been a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation since 2021. Never visited my tribe's reservation. I don't got to go show up at no powwows. I didn't have to do no interview. It's based on lineage. You put together your citizenship application packet, you send it in. Sometimes you got to send in some additional information, maybe a birth certificate or something, right? But it's all about proving your lineage. It has nothing to do with being approved or being accepted. It's just about proving that you descend from a member of the tribe. So, you know, a lot of people hear things like what Cree's talking about, and this kind of deters from folks from trying to get tribal citizenship, especially when we look at a lot of these tribes and we see that they look oh so white, right?
But oh my God, I'm like,
yeah.
Where's the copper color? Where is it?
Like, wait a minute, how did the Indians call the Europeans pale face if nowadays the Indians are pale face, right? Like, how does that happen?
Right.
Yeah. And that's a whole complicated thing. I mean, there's been a lot of intermixing since, you know, hundreds of years of colonization. You've also got Europeans that were adopted into tribes, Europeans that paid to get into tribes, hence the term $5 Indian, Europeans that intermarried into tribes. So yeah, it gets interesting.
It definitely does. And I've seen all of those reclassifications in Louisiana in particular. And they're still going on to this day. There is a divide and a separation in skin tone, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, most stuff. It gets even deeper in Louisiana. You got white tea folks straight up come to Louisiana and just create new tribes out of thin air. Like in the early to mid 2010s and stuff, yeah, Europeans was just coming through, creating Lacombe, Choctaw tribes, and this and that, just sprouting up new tribes out of thin air, getting a whole bunch of sponsorship and doing festivals and powwows and getting to the bag. I mean, hey, it is what it is. But yeah, go ahead and leave us with some closing remarks, Cree, and then I got to get on to Unbelievable Truth.
Okay. I don't really have closing remarks. I think that was the closing remark. That story.
For sure. Well, thanks for tuning in. Don't hesitate to click that link in the future.
All right. Until
All
next
right.
time.
Till next time. All right, Unbelievable Truth. Go ahead, unmute yourself. Let us know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
What's going on, man? I'm calling in from Atlanta, Georgia. I was just in the audience listening to you, man, and everything you say makes sense. And also, I just don't get the like why so many people just want to have these ties to Africa. Like it just don't make sense because you just broke it down. The what was the ocean geysers?
Yep.
I was trying to look that
The
up.
Ocean's Gyres. Gyres. Yep.
And I was looking that up, and I'm like, man, and I like to this day, you still can't take a cruise ship from America straight to Africa. So,
Hey, I wonder why.
And you know, we and the stuff that we got nowadays, them ships don't them ships that they was traveling in back then couldn't hold a candle to what they traveling in now.
Mm-hmm.
So if we still can't do it with the kind of technology and advancements in society technologically, and still can't get over there by boat, like that should say something. But the fact that the people just want to be ignorant and just include everybody in our rich heritage and history, because there's no liberation movement better than the one that was held here in the Americas, you know. And that's why it's such a disconnect between us and continental Africans, because they don't seem to understand. Because we sat there and let them have they Nelson Mandelas and they Massa Musas. We bigged them up for that. We let them have Dessalines. We bigged them up on all their accomplishments, but they'll come over here and be like, hey, we had a part in that too, knowing they didn't have nothing to do with the things that we accomplished over here in this nation. Like, it's just disheartening that they can come over here with that audacity to even speak down on us like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I feel you. It gets deep, y'all. At the end of the day, I don't understand why so many Africans want to talk greasy to us when if I really want to roast him, if we really want to get at him foul, all we got to do is Google Africans carrying Europeans. Lord, oh Lord, y'all get down in a whole different fashion than us. We don't have no pictures like this through slavery. Our ancestors was expert agriculturalists. Yes, they were working in those fields if they got captured, taken as prisoners of war. But damn, I don't see no chains on these folks. I don't see no chains. I don't see no overseers. I just see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Africans pushing Miss Beth through the Congo.
So they was willing participants.
They was willing participants. It's called a slave trade. We got colonized. They didn't get colonized. African colonization. What? When? Where? How? They were business partners with the Europeans, trading slaves to the Europeans. And then the Europeans decided to set up shop and take some of their mineral resources. I mean, look up the timeline of African colonization. They got colonized for less than 100 years. Most of Africa's colonization by Europeans started in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and most of them got their freedom or independence by the 1950s, 1960s. They were colonized a blink of the eye compared to us 400 or 500 years and still being occupied to this day, right?
And the crazy part about it is that out of 55 countries on that continent,
No shit, he giving man's a piggyback ride, y'all. I didn't see it at all.
33%, no, 33 or 32 of the 54 continents don't have infrastructure. If we really want to be dirty about it.
Yeah, Cree says, did you notice that bleaching is popular there? Yes, because they have this weird fetish with the white tea people and this inferiority complex. Yes, no self-esteem. Yeah,
cake soap is a big thing. It's really a big thing, not just in Africa, amongst the
Caribbean as well.
Caribbean, yes.
Hey, and what's the similarity there? A lot of the Africans went to the Caribbean, right? Oh, right. We connecting dots.
And they don't like it. They that you talking white tea supremacists pointing blackface, and those people
look at this. They carrying mans on their head in a hammock. We would never. We could never.
We would have died out there for that. About that. Yeah, we would have been willing to sacrifice. We would have been willing to put our lives on the line before we did some goofy stuff like that.
Hey, as a matter of fact, if anybody wants a quick story about just how resilient our ancestors were, I mean, if anybody wants me to read through, if anybody wants me to go to my website, nativeblackancestry.com, and go into the digital archive and read a couple of these ex-slave interviews from indigenous people captured and sent to plantations. Do y'all want me to read how they were rebelling, how they were resisting? I got a story where so-and-so's mama was beating a little white tea boy who tried to whip her. I got another story where old dude, the indigenous Black Indian father, he damn near took out the master and then had to go live in the woods by the plantation because he was beefing so hard with the master, right? But they want us to think that we was just getting beaten, not doing nothing, huh?
We have plenty of revolts in America, 1526, further back than that.
Come on, let's talk about it. Here. This is what we'll do. We put the likes on the shoulder of the TikTok folks. I said at the beginning of the stream, in order to get started, we needed 5,000 likes from the TikTok community. We got there. So now we're going to put it on the YouTube community, okay? If anybody sends a super chat, any amount, okay? If anybody sends a super chat, I'm going to go into the digital archive. We're going to read through one of these ex-indigenous slave interviews, and we're going to see just how resilient our ancestors were. But in the meantime, in between time, go ahead and finish out your thought. Unbelievable truth, and then we're gonna go ahead and segue to Shantae.
Okay. Yeah, I wanna talk to you behind the scenes and do my genealogy too, man. Something I'm interested in. Something I've been trying to, look into it, because for a long time I used to always know. I always could tell them apart. Like when I seen them, I could always tell that they was not like me. Like it's just like even in school, like when you seen them come to school before they start trying to emulate our culture, you know what I'm saying? Like they had their own way of dressing, and they was easy to to point out, like, yeah, you not from here.
Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we knew we were different from certain kids at school, but we couldn't verbalize it. We didn't really know, oh, they're from Africa, but we just knew right. Something different about how they act, how they look.
And most times the dead giveaway was their accent.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes I could see an African and I don't even have to hear them talk. I can already tell when I see one. Even the ones who lighter complected, I can still tell them. Now, sometimes it get a little tricky with them folks, and that's why it's kind of disheartening that they can't even respect us enough to just be like, okay, yeah, we're gonna ride with y'all. We roll for y'all. We open doors for y'all.
Yeah. Oh, and real quick, guys, I forgot to mention, make sure to check out my website, nativeblackancestry.com, because as a thank you for visiting the website, you do get to download a free copy of my ebook, Reclassified: The Hidden History of Black Indians in the Southeast from Indian to Negro. And I actually just updated and expanded this ebook with a whole lot more information. So definitely check out nativeblackancestry.com and get your free download of the ebook. But yeah, go ahead and give us some closing remarks, brother, and then I'm gonna segue to Shantae.
Okay, and like a lot of people, like this might sound cliche, but a lot of us did grow up hearing that we had Indian in us and we were Indians, and a lot of people just took it as a joke. wasn't taking it serious, and now it's all coming to the light, man. Like our grandparents was not lying when they was telling us this, you know. That's how I'm gonna close on.
Most stuff. And they can't even hoodwink us into thinking that, oh, our ancestors lied about being indigenous because they were ashamed to be African. No, how are these people ashamed to be African when they fell for the propaganda, were rocking daishikis every February, got the family together to watch Roots and Color Purple? No, they were proud to be African when they were programmed that way. So you can't pull that whole we were ashamed to be African. No. Every Black American can admit that their first entry-level base stepping stone of wokeness or higher knowledge of self is that Pan-African shit, just by default. We got to go through it. We got to go through the Nubian kings of the gods of the earth and the Egyptian hieroglyphs and the mummies and shit. And then those of us who ascend, who awaken and push further, we realize, okay, that was just a trap meant to keep you on a hamster wheel. Some of us never ascend from that. Some of us get caught up in that, especially the elders in our community. But
pushing it.
Yeah.
And the crazy part is that they didn't even like their own clothes before we made it popular over here in America. They weren't wearing dashiki cloths until we start wearing it. They're like, oh, the Americans wearing it. The Black Americans wearing it. Let's go ahead and start wearing dashiki cloths again. Yeah. They was never even into their own clothing.
Nah, not at all. Not at all. But all right, next up we've got Shantae. Shantae, go ahead, unmute yourself. Let us know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
I am also calling from Georgia, Gwinnett County. And I just end up like scrolling past and seeing your live. I've never been here before. I'm new.
Oh, well, welcome.
Thank you.
I don't bite. Thanks for joining.
No. I believe everything happens for a reason. I recently just started like trying to trace my family roots back. And I'm kind of like nervous. But when you was talking, and I went to this nativeblackancestry.com and I looked on there and I seen your last name. It was crazy because that's my grandmother's her dad's name is Lane.
Oh, wow. Small world.
Yes. So I'm just like sometimes you just get certain like clues to chime in. Like this probably directed me to this so I can kind of learn more to try to draw it back, because I got stuck in I think the 1800s with my great grandfather, and then it just continues to like blossom because each limb branches out into another branch, and it just keeps going and going and going. So I'm just excited about unfolding more information. I'm not from Georgia. I'm from Wisconsin, but my grandfather came from Mississippi, and my grandmother was from Tibby, Mississippi. So now I'm starting to try to go back to try to figure it out, but it's kind of hard trying to find a lot of information because they didn't have a lot of records. So I've been trying to go through like Ancestry and kind of look for names in different trees to try to get information off. So that's all I wanted to come up and say is like the name. When I see your name, I'm like, oh, here's a clue. Even if it's for me to go to the website to read more information to try to kind of give myself guidance.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I built out the website, so that it's really a hub of information, a lot of historical resources. You know, I've got that digital archive where you can get access to like 600 plus documents, all highlighting our indigeneity. And of course, besides that, you can, have access to my calendar, schedule a one-on-one if you like. And actually, for anybody interested in booking a consultation with me, I forgot to mention earlier in the broadcast that you can, at checkout, use the coupon code TikTok, one word, all lowercase, and that hooks you up with like an extra 15 or 20% off your initial consultation. But yeah, so I'm assuming that you have some oral tradition in the family being passed down of indigenous ancestry.
Yes, we did. My cousin, the oldest grandchild on my grandfather and my grandmother's side, he was in charge of doing the genealogy. Nice. My grandmother actually, her name was Etta T. Lane before she married my grandfather. So she passed having my mother. So I never really got the chance to meet her. So we really couldn't get a lot of information from her. Her information really came from her family, who was still like in Mississippi, but we was in Wisconsin. So he was more in charge of it. He kind of like, I don't know. He kind of dropped the ball, but then I got interested in it because it's like like the guy said before, it just don't feel. We've never been told we came from Africa.
Yeah.
So we never was raised like that.
You know, real quick, I gotta pause the show. Kim, thank you for the Cash App. Appreciate it. Kim came through with a dub for education. I appreciate the support. And actually, let me cue the special tune for you. Thank you for sliding something in the brown paper bag. And also a huge shout out to everybody supporting through TikTok, sending gifts and whatnot. I appreciate the support from everyone. But yeah, Shantae, I totally understand where you're coming from, especially with hitting that brick wall in the 1800s. There's especially a point of contention we hit in like the mid 1800s. I kind of call it like the mid 1800s brick wall, where a lot of times if our ancestors were captured as prisoners of war, you know, forced into servitude, they won't actually show up on the U.S. Census until the 1850s, 1860s for the first time. Whereas, you know, some of our ancestors who were not enslaved, you know, they'll show up on census records earlier than the 1850s. So that's, you know, a telltale way to kind of differentiate whether or not you could have had enslaved ancestors or not. But that's also why a lot of us kind of reach a roadblock when we get right around like the 1850s, 1860s.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what I'll be doing. I've been going to the library and basically trying to trace back as much as I can, but I'm not going to give up because I have to build this with my children.
Yeah, no, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You know, just stay the course. I've got some people who consult with me, and they've been doing the research on their own for 3 years, 5 years. You know, they'll do it for a few months, hit a brick wall, give up for a few months, come back to it, right? So as long as you just stay the course and don't give up, you'll hit the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I will. Well, thank you for allowing me on the platform.
Yeah, well, hey, since you're here and it is your first time, typically when I do these live streams, I have a series of thought-provoking questions queued up. Let me go ahead and bring these up here and see if you want to tackle them. I'm not sure if you can see them on the screen. If not, I can go ahead and read them to you as well.
I can see them.
All right, perfect. So go ahead and knock those out if you can.
Why are so many people upset that Black Americans are acknowledging their indigenous American roots, but they had no issue when Black folks claim to be Moors, Hebrews, and Nubians, etc.? I think it's because they want us to continue to not know who we are, because if we don't know who we are, we don't know our purpose and our power. So I think that's the reason why they're kind of upset, because we're in an age of knowledge and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And the information is out here for us to know who we are. So if we know who we are, we know our powers and we can kind of take back our lives.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, tackle the next one.
Did you know that Americas have more periods than Africa? I do. I have been learning a lot on these different panels. I even just got a book. It was called The Indian Encyclopedia of the Contribution of the Indians. So I just got that book. And I also got a Black Indigenous book, where it's a compilation of letters from people who came over here and kind of wrote letters back to saying what they had seen. Mm-hmm. So yes, I did know.
That 10 Europeans who admitted they were Black Indians or something like that?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yep. So I started reading that too. It's like I've been gathering a lot of information. If most Black Americans are said to descend from African slaves, why do U.S. Census records from 1700s and 1800s list so many free people of color, but so few actual Africans? Because as you mentioned earlier, and I even got into looking at like, I think it's called like the drift, the way the ocean goes. Mm-hmm. To try to see.
Ocean's gyres. Yeah. The ocean's gyres. The natural currents of the oceans. Yeah.
Right. Because me and my coworker was talking about how could boats get to the Americas? That's why they went down to South Africa, because of the way the current went. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of us don't descend from Africa. And I never believed that. It just didn't make any sense. Even thinking about how they said they traveled and brought them over here. I'm in healthcare, so it's just like it would not be possible to be able to like transport that many people in those conditions and have them live and not infect each other and stuff like that, and muscle atrophy and just so many things. So yeah, I don't believe most of us came from there. Who benefits more from us believing we're Africa, US, or the same people who stole our land? More? Who benefit more? I believe they're both trying to steal our land, honestly. I
Well,
think
no, hold on. Let me reiterate that. So, who
okay.
benefits more from us believing we're from Africa? Us or the same people who stole our land?
The people who stole our land.
For sure.
I feel like that goes back to not knowing who you are and be able to claim your power back and
But
get
they try to convince us that the real revolutionary act was us getting in touch with our African roots. So there's supposed to be some huge benefit that they wanted to keep from us that we've now gained from taking on the spirit of Pan-Africanism, right? So have you seen like any evidence of something that we've gained from claiming Africa as the motherland? I mean, I know in February we were rocking some ankhs and some daishikis and some beads, but can you think of any benefit Black Americans get from believing we descend from Africans?
No, I don't see any benefit that we get from that. Because I work with them, the people from there, and they do not like us. And they frown upon us, and it's not a collective, it's not collaborative. It's no, so we don't benefit any way around.
I feel it. Well, hey, if you want to leave the folks with some closing remarks, go for it, and then I'm gonna segue to Dr. Darwin.
Okay, my closing remarks is just don't stop, keep going. And I mean, because it honestly, it doesn't end. Like when you uncover one family member, they also have parents, and then those parents also have parents. So just keep going as far as you can, and don't give up, because like you said, it's not a race, it's a marathon. So take your time and understand, and I look forward to uncovering all the hidden treasures of my family and kind of knowing where I come from and kind of confirming where I get certain personality traits and characteristics, skills, and even my gifts. So that's what I'll say.
Most def. Well, hey, thanks for calling in. Don't hesitate to hit that button in the future.
Thank you.
All right, till next time. Dr. Darwin, go ahead, introduce yourself. Let us know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
Yes, how's it going, man? I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm Black American. I do have Seminole Indians in my family, Black Seminole Indians, that is. There is some evidence of Buffalo Soldier activity. My family unaliving multiple Siberian Mongoloid people trying to free our families. It was a big reversal story. This host has it. He has it hit on the money. As far as the ancestry goes, the reclassification goes. Dude, you know, you couldn't have done a better job. Checked out your website. Awesome website, man.
Thanks.
I went past the Indian part just to figure out, you know, other things that they've erased and reclassified us as. And yeah, when you dig in the big maze of information that they've tried to hide everything under, you'll understand that a lot of us were even brought to Africa, to different places of Africa, and coerced.
I believe the American Colonization Society started in like late 1700s, mid 1700s or something, right?
Come on, brother. Yes.
Hold
yes.
on, I'm looking up. When was the American Colonization Society founded?
I know for sure they've been bringing us over there since the early
1817.
Yep.
1817. Since 1817, they was trying to get indigenous folks to go over there to Africa. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yep. And convincing us we'll be safer over there and things of that nature, or forced. There was times where we were forced to go to places like Ivory Coast. There were some people that were coerced to go to Ethiopia. You know, you got to dig into it, and it's like, well, you'll look at one point when they would come over, they were all one color. They were all this dark black,
Mhm.
purplish hue.
And real
No
quick,
matter
real
what
quick,
part.
let's read real quick
Okay, go ahead, brother.
what our ancestors were saying about these colonization schemes, as they called them. Remember, Frederick Douglass had his own newspaper, the North Star, and in January 22nd, 1852, he writes about the colonization scheme. He says there is no sentiment more universally entertained nor more firmly held by the free colored people of the United States than that this is their own, their native land, and that here, for good or for evil, their destiny is to be wrought out. Identified with the entire history of the American people going back more than 200 years, this sentiment is natural and praiseworthy. There is not now, there never has been, and we think there never will be any general desire on the part of our people to immigrate from this land to any other, and least of all, to the wilds of Africa. Yeah, that's how our ancestors was talking about going to Africa. But that's the motherland, right?
To the wilds of Africa.
Wilds. They
Yeah,
said,
'cause
I
we
ain't
were
going to no
civilized people.
bushes. I'm not going from the burbs to the bushes. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
No, I mean, 100% agree. We were a civilized people. They try to make like they civilized us, but we civilized everyone else. In all actuality, Black Americans were the civilized people. The Black Indians were. We weren't slapping and digging in mud like they try to portray us to be. We were a sophisticated group of people. That's why everybody wanted to come here. This was the motherland. This was the true. It's all been reversed. And you look into it, just like they reclassified us, they renamed everything or switched excuse me, Speed, 1 second. They renamed us and switched everything around, dude. Same kind of situation as far as the motherland theory goes. I mean, because when you're digging, you can find diamonds in freaking Arkansas. In freaking Podunk, Arkansas, you can go find diamonds. Right now, there's diamond mines, and they'll let you go dig them up. Okay, so this whole theory of they're the motherland, it's to get you to entice you to rid yourself from the true motherland. I'll rest my case.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in, brother. Don't hesitate to click that button in the future. Hopefully next time, slightly less background noise, but we were still able to make out what you were saying. And guys, here's another one. This is from, I think, the early 1900s. This is by a Black doctor, J.R. Hawkins, Kansas City, Missouri. He says, disenfranchise the Negro and send him back to Africa? Absurd. Impossible. More than $1 billion worth of United States real estate, which he owns in his own name in the United States, is not easily to be taken from him. Besides, the Negro is not an African. He is an American. African is a misnomer. Why try to send him to a country which is not his own? Come on, y'all. This is what our ancestors were saying about Africa, but they want to convince us that we come from there. Yeah. Gene Erica says they raided an ancient land and called it a new world. Exactly. Buried our ancient buildings in plain sight. Oh, yeah. Start looking into those world's fairs and whatnot. Start looking into the conquistador accounts of the cities of the Inca. Come on. Look at a Spanish map of La Florida and all of the castles and settlements that they document along the waterways and different tributaries associated with the Mississippi. Let's talk about it. But you know, guys, before we segue into some more content, let me see if anybody else wants to call in, provide some input. I'm surprised that we haven't had any trolls, any naysayers, any detractors call in yet. Normally, we have at least a few people, whether Africans or Mexicans or Caucasians, that want to call in and dictate heritage to us. But tonight, I don't know. Tonight, they must have went to bed early. We must be up past their bedtime. I don't know. But let me see if we got anybody else on TikTok that wants to join before we get into some more content. I got a video that I want to share from UBTV. It's a great YouTuber. Comes with a lot of heavy-handed receipts. And then we're going to, talk about the Maya pyramids that were found in Florida that nobody wants us to know about. Hey, you can more with historical accuracy say that Black Americans descend from the Maya before you say we descend from some Africans. Come on. They're really convincing our people that we descend from some Africans, but it's crazy to think we descend from some Maya, huh? Maya was right around here, Central America, right around here. Hold on. I gotta share my screen a little differently for the folks on the TikTok. Let me bring this up for y'all. They got y'all programmed to think we came on the belly of a slave ship from the other side of the world, but it's impossible for us to migrate from Central America to the Southeast, huh, guys? The Olmec, the descendants of the Olmec, the Maya, the step pyramids and stuff, yeah, guys, it's just too far to travel from modern day North Mexico to the Southeast, guys. It's just, impossible to create a canoe that goes across the Gulf or to walk it, or just hug the coastline. That was just impossible for us to descend from indigenous communities that migrated from Mexico. That's crazy. What makes more sense is that we were imported by the millions all the way from Africa. Okay. All right. Come on. But hey, someone said, I forget who it was, but there was someone who said, repeat a lie enough and the people will believe it, right? If you just repeat the lie enough times, the people will believe. But guys, let's go ahead and get into it. I want to react to some UBTV content. He did a great piece about the Mayan whitewash. I believe that's what he called it, the Mayan whitewash. Let's get into it, y'all. Let's get into it. Damn, I didn't realize I had so many screens open. Come on, here it is.
What happened to the Maya? Some people claim that the Maya never left and are the people still living in the old Maya-occupied territories. However, the most common theory is that they were wiped out by the Spanish, mostly due to disease. But is there any chance that some of the Maya could have relocated? There have been reports that stated that some of the Maya did relocate to Guatemala after the fall of the Mayan Empire. But is there a chance that the Maya could have relocated to the north end of the Gulf Coast? Specifically around...
Oh, hold on, guys. It looks like we have a Mongolian migrant in the chat. Jen says, God placed your ancestors in Africa for a reason, so stop making stuff up. Well, good Lord, I'd love to at least see who we're talking to. Who is this lady in here trying to dictate? Oh, damn, Siberian Husky. Say it ain't so. Damn, Mulan. If you don't go back across the Bering Strait from whence you came. Oh, Lord. Damn, she's so insecure. She got the profile on private, but she want to come over to our kickout and dictate heritage to us. I mean, oh, Jen, take a seat. I know you ain't claiming indigenous with all that makeup on your face, too. There ain't nothing indigenous about them fake lashes and all that mascara. I mean, giving me ladyboy vibes. Are you Filipino or are you a Bering Strait migrant? Okay, guys, I gotta stop. Definitely giving ladyboy vibes.
Around Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, or Florida? Because apparently there are some very strong cultural connections and even strong archaeological connections, especially at the Crystal River site in Florida, where Mayan hieroglyphics were found and a cache of other Mayan artifacts buried in a Temple Mound complex. This mound complex just happened to be constructed with a similar layout, design, and astronomical alignment to Venus as the Mayan complexes in the Yucatan. But this isn't where the connections end. Many of the places and names associated with Florida, Georgia, and to a lesser extent the Southeast are Itza Mayan in origin, especially cities, mountains, and rivers. The Itza Maya language was one of the last variations spoken during the fall of the Mayan Empire in the late 1600s. Itza Mayan words of places and names that may sound familiar are names like Tallahassee, Muskogee, Latichi, Okeechobee, Appalachie, Etowah, Catawba, Chickamauga, Tallulah. Any word with hoochie or hatchie.
Come on, y'all, look into the etymology. There's a lot of similarities between what they call the Mayan dialect and the dialect of the tribes of not the Bering Strait Plains natives, not the Navajo, not the Comanche, not the Apache. No, the tribes of the Southeast, the Black indigenous tribes of the Southeast.
Is of Itza Mayan origin, meaning creek or shallow river. Rivers like the Tallahatchie, the Chattahoochee, any river with a hatchie or a hoochie, or even a coochie for that matter, is of Itza Mayan origin.
Come on, y'all. If it has a hatsi, a hoochie, or a coochie, it's Itza Mayan. But I wonder why these Bering Strait Tonto folks aren't talking about Itza Mayan. I wonder why the Bering Strait migrant folks don't want to talk about effigy mounds or truncated pyramids or anything of the sort that denotes high society. Oh, wait, it's because that's not their heritage. They don't know nothing about that history. They can't tell you who built the Cahokia Mounds because that wasn't them.
When the Maya ruins were first discovered, they do not look like they do right now. Most of them resembled a mound or a hill of dirt that had been massively overgrown by the forest. All of these monuments have been restored. That means that historians and archaeologists and some architects have used their creative license to rebuild these monuments. So what you're seeing is a result of what they think these monuments look like. And that goes for much of the stele as well. When you're seeing these depictions, many of them have been restored by artists. So even the stele that may look really ornate or intricate, many of these stele have been repurposed and restored. Remember Brigitto Lara, the man who forged over 40,000 Mesoamerican artifacts. Many of these artifacts were whitewashed. He basically remade the face of Veracruz through his art. So when you're seeing some of these.
And if you guys appreciate the content, you can do me a huge favor. Just take the moment, especially the folks on TikTok, share the broadcast with as many of your friends as possible. You know they got your boy shadow banned. So please and thank you. Share, share, share. D1, thank you for sharing with 10 friends. I appreciate that. Everybody, please take the time to like and share.
Depictions, understand what's going on here. Brigitto Lara was faking artifacts, and the archaeologists were dating it in the correct period. They were dated between 200 and 600 AD perfectly. But he just faked it in 1973. What are we talking about? Use your brain, Maine. Be careful of the more than perfect depictions. So, of course, these people have been accused of whitewashing the early stele. They've been accused of whitewashing the early lithographs and photographs, and or doing the same thing Napoleon was accused of, like breaking the mouths and the lips and the noses off Mayan artifacts. That's why so many of them don't have lips and noses.
Come on, y'all. Whenever they start busting the noses off of the artifacts, you know what that means. You know what that means. We're very familiar with how they did the Sphinx in Egypt. We're very familiar with how they try to lighten up the hieroglyphs. Did y'all know that they did the same thing over here when it comes to some of them Olmec statues? They got the nose removed. Some of these figurines and clay sculptures. I mean, guys, it gets deep. We getting into the Mayan whitewash.
Charlatan's Web quote, Asian Mexicans. To jump down just below the colonial era. However, regular immigration did not begin until 1565 with the establishment of the Manila-Acapulco galleon, which economically linked Asia, the Americas, and Europe. During those 2.5 centuries, many Filipinos, Mexicans,
And guys, please pay attention to this portion. This is why so many of you guys see Mexicans that look Asian. Mexicans that look Asian claiming to be indigenous. I mean, tell me if that ain't an identity crisis. See, what it is your average Mexican is 1 part conquistador, maybe 1 part indigenous, definitely 1 part African slave, and more likely than not, 1 part Filipino slave as well. You see, the Spanish colonized the Philippines at the same time that they were colonizing the Americas and shipped so many Filipino slaves and servants over to what would later be Mexico.
of the Manila-Acapulco galleon, which economically linked Asia, the Americas, and Europe. During those 2.5 centuries, many Filipinos, Mexicans, and others sailed from Mexico and the Philippines. Mexicans as soldiers, governors, and sailors, and Filipinos as slaves, prisoners, and crew. Okay, so we're talking about really an intercontinental exchange of people. And of course, there's going to be some mingling going on, right? On these voyages, thousands of Asian individuals, mostly males, were brought to Mexico as slaves and were called chinos or indios chinos, which meant Chinese and Indian respectively. Although in reality, they were of diverse origins, mostly Filipino, but also including slaves brought from the Portuguese or captured through war, like Moros, Muslim Filipinos, Malays, Javanese, Bengalis, and other ethnic groups in smaller numbers, such as Japanese, Chinese, Sinhalese, Cambodians, Koreans, and Timorese. So continuing, during the early period of Spanish colonization of the Philippines, Spaniards took advantage of the indigenous alipin, the bonded serf system in the Philippines, to circumvent the leyes de las Indias, the laws of the Indies.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're going to wrap up this broadcast here shortly. If you want an encore, you know what to do. Hit the Cash App, hit the Super Chat, send your boy some corn gifts on TikTok or something. We can definitely dip into a bit of an encore if that's what the people are feeling. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up this broadcast here shortly.
Acquire Filipino slaves for the voyage back to New Spain. Though the numbers are unknown, of course they're unknown. And you should hear some of these estimates. Though the numbers are unknown, it was so prevalent that slaves brought on ships were restricted to 1 per person, except for persons of rank, in the laws regarding navigation and commerce, to avoid exhausting ship provisions. They were also taxed heavily upon arrival in Acapulco in an effort to reduce slave traffic. Traffic in Filipino women as slaves, servants, and mistresses of government officials, crew, and passengers also caused scandals in the 17th century. Women comprised of about 20% of the migrants from the Philippines. What this is really saying that they were bringing Filipino women here since the late 1500s. And a primary purpose of these Filipino women were to act as mistresses for government officials. And what happens when a woman is a mistress for anyone? They usually end up having children out of wedlock. These Filipinos, some were slaves, some were indentured servants, some were mercenaries. They played an important role in the class system. And of course, at this time in colonialism, the class system is based off colorism. And so what you're really seeing with these people is a combination of genetics. Now, look at that boy face right there. You got that old Siberian face, man. Got them Tartarian lips there, boy. You got that yak fade, boy. Look at some bitch right there. Looking like a straight Tartarian, Siberian. Looking like he walked across the barren straight barefoot, boy. Look at that boy. Yeah, man. Tartarian if I ever seen. Because, I mean, obviously he got that barren straight face.
Come on, Bering Strait natives, where you at? Why don't the statues look like you? Why does none of the archaeology point towards your phenotype? Let's talk about it.
That Tartarian taper. That Siberian shape up. I can't think of no more.
Damn, he got the crispy lineup too. Man's must have just got out the barber chair. He got that crispy lineup. They took him from the M-shaped hairline to the crispy lineup.
That Siberian shape up. I can't think of no more. You got the Inuit perm. You got that Falkland fade. I don't know where the I don't think that's not right. You got that Aryan ass.
Look who's talking. Says, where are their ancestors? In Russia, Mongolia, Siberia, China.
Afro. All right. I guess there's nothing here. Oh, there's something there. I can't find it, and it's making me mad. I mean, they say they're ball players, but maybe that ball's ping pong ball. Ping pong player. Yeah. Those ball courts, they were ping pong courts. I bet you up on that helmet, he got a damn flamenco fade. This some bitch got to let it line up. The Moscow mullet.
Damn.
There's some other heads out there. You got the La Ventas, right? You got the dang La Venta heads over there. You got the San Lorenzis over there. I don't know much about anything, but there was some old big lip bastards over there on the Veracruz coast, and they was most likely Siberians. Let's keep it 100, boy. What them boys say? Let's keep it 100.
Come on, y'all. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Again, make sure to check out the website nativebblackancestry.com if you're looking for personalized guidance with genealogy research. As always, you can use the coupon code TikTok, one word, all lowercase, at checkout for a special discount.
Mike TV, he's knowledgeable about his information, about the American Indians, and how we change our classification over time and the different types of mounds and different rules from the French, from the British. If you want valuable information, you want to really find out who in your lineage and who are the people you come from, I suggest going with Mike TV. His prices are affordable. He's not like some of these other people out here. I urge, go with Mike TV.
Come on, y'all. What are you waiting for? NativeBlackAncestry.com. Check it out. Real people, real results.
So for anybody who is on the fence about having Mike help you or walk you through or educating you about genealogy and the genocide that has happened with the paper trail, I implore you to reach out, allow him to educate you and assist you in this process. I have learned so much in this consultation. I feel educated, empowered, and excited for learning about my history, and looking forward to the future. So if you're on the fence, please go ahead, hit up Mike. I promise you will not be disappointed.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them. And this shit get way deeper than your pigment.